Hello and welcome to Tabletop for One. Last video I did was on the joy of gaming, and I highlighted 5 particular game designers that brought joy to the online gaming community through the Facebook and Reddit and their presence there and everything that they brought to try and just bring joy to the community through their posts, through their games, and through their designs. This time, I want to highlight 5 particular games that put a smile on my face. Um, Smiles are hard to come by for me personally, um, just because of stress and anxiety and depression that I face every day. But there's some games that I get to the table that, whether it be their theme or their art or the gameplay itself, just bring me a lot of joy, and I really appreciate that in this hobby. And so, without further ado, I'm going to do my top 5 games that bring a smile to my face. And I do have one honorable mention, and I received this game recently. I had to get it from Singapore, of all places, because nowhere in the US did this game get distributed. As far as I know, the only people in the U.S. that got it was through the Kickstarter, and I debated backing this game originally, decided not to, and then when I saw a review video, I thought, why didn't I back that game? So here it is. It is Wishland. Now, Wishland is a worker placement game with the theme park theme, where you build a park, you have different parts of your theme park. You can have like Basketland or Tomorrowland, or well, I don't think they use Tomorrowland because that's Disneyland, but you know what I mean. They have different places, and then you add restaurants to those areas, and you add rides, and you add mascots and actors and all sorts of things. And each of these cards that you add to your tableau um, provide bonuses or end game scoring or income, and it's a really tight game. You have 28 actions in the entire game, and it doesn't feel like you have enough. And you're trying to maximize your actions each round. And it's a whole lot of fun. It has great table presence. The color's great. The art's great. Everything's really great about it. But I've only got one play, and I've only played it 2 players. So I haven't even played it solo yet. So that's why it's an honorable mention. But thinking about it brings a smile to my face, and I want to try it again. I want to try it solo. I believe I'm going to play it later on today with my son, and I'm just looking forward to the next play. So we're going to go with number 5, and that is going to be Baseball Highlights. Now, the art is good, but it's a deck builder. If you know me, I'm not a big fan of deck builders, but the reason why this one brings a smile to my face is it is such a good deck builder that it made me love some deck builders again. This one in particular, I've rated a 10 out of 10, and I've only done that with, I want to say 4, maybe 5 games in my collection. So I don't give that out lightly. It is so good, and in just the base game, you don't even need to add any expansions to it to make it better. It is an excellent deck builder. It's great solo, it's great 2-player. There's very little I would look to improve on it. Maybe just deluxify it a little bit, but everything's just really, really good. And this game made me just love deck builders again, and I really love getting it to the table. Each card play feels impactful and tactical, and there's just nothing I dislike about that game. So it's a really good game. Love how much joy I get from playing that game. Next one is a Kickstarter I backed by Tim Eisner, which you might know from Tidal Blades. I think he did Tidal Blades, maybe Wonderland's War, March of the Ants, one of my favorite 4X games. But he made this small box game with art by I'm gonna butcher this guy's name, but Vincent Dutrait, I believe. Oh my goodness, yes, Vincent Dutrait. And if you don't know what's coming, it's Canopy. Now, Canopy is a card drafting set collection game. It's very simple. The rules are quite simple. There's 4 piles of cards in front of you. On your turn, you get to look at the first pile. If you want it, you can take the pile of cards and add it to your tableau, or you can pass on it, add 1 more card face down from the deck so you don't know what's getting added to it, and go on to the next pile. By the time you get to the 4th pile, you got to take the 4th pile. But the next player gets to look at the cards you looked at before, and they get to see all the new added cards, and they have possibly an advantage of taking more cards than you on the previous turn. And there's just a lot of really good card play there. There's set collection with some of the cards, but the art in this game really brings it to life. It's not only a fun game, it looks beautiful on the table. I even bought a jigsaw puzzle of the cover and finished that. And so I really enjoy bringing this one to the table. I love the solo mode because the cards you don't pick, the AI is going to pick up, and so you really have to decide what you're going to let the AI have, and hope that the cards that you choose are going to push you further than the AI was able to achieve. So there's some really good decision space there. It plays really quick, 20-30 minutes max, and it's just a really beautiful game. All right, moving on. The third game that brings a smile to my face, and it was a surprise of last year. I picked it up secondhand from Noble Knight Games. They have a lot of good secondhand games. So it only cost me $20. Came in very good condition. This was a Kickstarter a while back. Went through several editions. I got the 4th edition. And this is a game I don't see mentioned. In fact, I think I'm the only one on the Solo Board Gamer forum that mentions this game. But it is Town Center. Now, Town Center has you building a city on a grid. And the way you build the city is you build it with these chunky blocks, wood blocks. They're probably like 24 millimeters, maybe larger blocks. You'll see in the pictures here. But these blocks you build on the grid, and they have adjacency rules, not only horizontal, vertical, but not only on the X and Y axis, but on the Z axis. So as you build the city higher, it's going to affect the blocks on the same level as it, and so you really want to expand your residencies, and your residencies can only expand under certain conditions, and you can't just place your residencies anywhere, but your residencies earn you the most points based on how how many are in a group. And you can do these really fun combos where if I place this here and I place this there, then all of a sudden my 3 different residencies expand together and form this 13 cube residency, scoring me, I don't know, was it like 80 points or something crazy. My first game, I think I scored like 20 points. But my average, I think now is upwards of like 45. But some of those games where you score these huge points is just very satisfying. You have this big old tower of blocks on your board, and stacking blocks has just never been so fun before. And it only plays in like 20 minutes. It takes like 2 minutes to set up, plays in 20 minutes. The rulebook isn't the greatest. If you've played an Albin VR game, the designer, he's really smart. He did Clinic Deluxe, he did Tramways. Brilliant designer, but it doesn't translate so well to an easy rule book. And so sometimes when you're playing a game, in one of his games, you're having to reference the rule book a lot. Thankfully, with Town Center, there aren't a lot of rules. He also has a player aid. Once you get the rules down, the player aid helps. But it's one of those games where, since there's not a lot of rules, I can pick up Town Center anytime and play it without really having to reference the rulebook. Maybe just the setup on how much money I get. I think it's like $3 to start or something like that. But it's really quick to set up, fun to play, and like I said, you can get it second hand for cheap. I think it was $20 was what I paid for it. I definitely recommend the fourth edition. I believe it has bigger cubes or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's definitely worth it to me. Put a smile on my face. I think I played it 10 times in a row when I first played it. When I first got it and opened it and played it 10 games in a row. That's how much I liked it. All right, we're moving on to our number 2 of the top 5 games that bring a smile to my face. This one has happiness in its title. It was a recent Kickstarter for a new expansion. Actually, I say recent. I want to say it was 2020, maybe 2021, early 2021 for its Kickstarter, and it still hasn't delivered. And I hope it does because the expansion looks really good. And but we'll see what happens. But it's out of print, and so I'm sorry for highlighting a game that you probably can't get right now. But it is the most thematic worker placement I have in my collection. Most thematic worker placement I've played. Because in this game, you are not actually playing workers, but you're spending time. And you're spending time over the course of your character's life. And if you don't know what this game is yet, I'm going to go ahead and show you here. It is the Pursuit of Happiness. Pursuit of Happiness. I first heard about Pursuit of Happiness from Luke Hector, the Broken Meeple. He calls it the Euro version of the game of life, and it really is. And it has such great mechanics where you spend your time each round, and each round is a decade, and you get to pick activities to do. You can date somebody, marry somebody, you can get a job. But each of those things cost time. When you get married, at the beginning of the round, you automatically set aside, I want to say, one of your time markers at the beginning of every round. So you're already down time because being married obviously takes time. And it takes work, and it takes effort, and that translates into the game. That the time you place into your marriage brings you happiness, and that's the goal of the game, is to have the most long-term happiness, basically like a fulfilled life. And it's expressed in the various activities and things you do in the game, and it could be a job. So there's 3 levels of job, and each level of job provides more income, but also costs more time. The 3rd level, I think, costs 2 time tokens. And then you can you can buy items or activities, you can visit places and stuff. But when you do the same thing in a turn or in a round, it causes stress. And the more stress you gain, the shorter your lifespan. So the game ends when your character dies from old life, and your stress actually causes a shorter life. So it's incredibly thematic. It makes sense. Everything about it makes sense. But the cards are fun. The art's fun. You can do anything from golfing to LARPing, live action role playing. You can own a board game collection. You could become a doctor. You could become the president. You can do all sorts of. You can have kids. You can, and the kids cause stress, but they also gain happiness from having the kids. I mean, it's real. I know that. I have 5 kids. They cause stress and they give me a lot of happiness. So so yeah, I love the game. It has such a great theme, and it plays real well. It plays great solo. Plays great 2-player. I probably wouldn't play it any more than 2-player just because the table space and the time. The more players you add, you just basically double the time. I think a 1-player game takes about 45 minutes, so 2 players is going to be about another half hour, maybe 45 minutes on that. And so, yeah, I would only play 2-player, but it's really a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it. And then we're gonna go on to my last one, and this one was my. It's probably my second Kickstarter that I backed, and one I was really excited for, and one nobody really ever talks about. Has one of the worst rule books. It even has errors on it printed on the front of the rule book that didn't make it through quality inspections or anything. And but this game, when you play it, it has these great themes. You mash up a couple different decks, and you're going to encounter these items and enchantments and monsters, and fight your way through this journey and try and get as far as you can. And the whole goal is to enchant this item of incredible power and destruction, and to fight monsters and bosses and all sorts of things. Go on quests. But this game is called Enchanters. And Enchanters, I got the big deluxe box. What's I don't even know how to explain it. So like I would rate this game at like a 7 based on its design. But I love it like a 10 because of the art, because of the gameplay, because of the variability. The components are great. Well, I got the deluxe box, so that helps. But I love the game, and I love I just love everything about it. But what makes it so fun, and what puts a smile on my face, is the cards. So when you have two areas in front of you that you're building this tableau on, and one is for an item. So think of like a morning star, or a cloak, or a helmet, or a shield, or crossbow, or something like that. You'll find these different items, and then you'll enchant that item. But on the item card, it'll have half a sentence describing the item, and on the enchantment card, it'll finish that sentence describing the enchantment. And it adds for this really fun comical flair that you can combine these items, and it provides this really interesting sentence. So when I'm playing this, I'm finding myself constantly rereading that sentence every time I get a new card and add it to the pile. And or if I'm playing it multiplayer, with my kids, we're always rereading the sentence, So like, for instance, we could have the chalice of blood, and on the bottom of the card it says, "Say bottoms up with a chalice that makes you a universal donor." It's weird. It's comical. It's funny. Or a whip of blood. No need to explain having a whip that makes you a universal donor. It's just weird. How about a chalice of darkness? Say bottoms up with a chalice that turns the lights out in the whole dungeon. Or how about, let's see, get a couple more here. Got a backpack of anti-magic. Never leave your loot behind with a backpack that keeps the magic away. Chalice of regeneration. Say bottoms up with a chalice that moisturizes your bones. So you got all these different combinations, and that's just some of the items and enchantments from 2 decks. And there's like 28 decks in the deluxe edition that has all the expansions, and so you just constantly rereading the cards, and every time I read them, brings a smile to my face. I really enjoy it, and it's one of those games that like, it really could be better. The solo mode is absolutely awful. I mean, okay, I might be being a little harsh. But the rulebook, I think because of translation, just didn't read well in English. And so there's a lot of questions about edge cases and particular rules and how certain um, different decks mash up and how they affect the gameplay of fighting the boss monsters. That it's just not as enjoyable as it should be, and it's a little swingy too, because some of the decks, when you mash them up, you're not able to create an item and enchant it well enough to actually defeat the boss fast enough. I will say, however, if you can play it four-handed against the boss, it does better, and because then you're using four different decks. On top of that, you're going to want to pick a deck that has healing, um, that has high defense and high attack. That way, each of the characters that you play can enchant items that resemble common fantasy classes like a healer, a tank, and a fighter, and that sort of thing. So each person can play a role. That's definitely better. But the solo, in general, doesn't work well. I'm actually developing my own solo version of fighting not the boss monsters, but multiple overlords, and having the goal of defeating the overlords before you finish the journey, kind of thing. So I still love the game. Again, like based on how it is, I would rate it a 7. Based on how much I like it, a 10. But that's not how that works. Well, there you have it. That was my top 5 games that bring a smile to my face. I love this hobby. I love what it's done to my mental health. As you've heard me say before, these particular games bring a smile to my face, especially when a smile is hard to come by on some days. And I'd like to hear in the comments, please let me know what games bring a smile to your face. It could be for whatever reason it does. It could be nostalgia. This one brings a smile to my face because every time I play it, I remember playing it with my family or something like that. Whatever you want to say, I'd really be happy to hear about it, because I like to share in the community and what everybody experiences. So I appreciate you watching Tabletop for One, and have a good night.